And now finally, we're on Onslaught. And at first, he might not actually look like a remold. He actually looks like a pretty interesting little tank truck kind of going on. You know, especially since, you know, he is a remold of Hotspot, and you bring in Hotspot over here. And yeah, at first glance, maybe besides the wheels, they don't really look like they're too much of a remold until you do this with Hotspot. You look at the front there, and yeah, suddenly it's pretty obvious that he's a remold, you know, especially if you get back here and he has the little purple sirens there. Especially once you get down to the underside and, you know, flip Hotspot chest piece where it's the same, and yep, that is definitely a reuse right there. Now, granted, they changed a lot. Like, how this piece sits on here is completely different, as Hotspot's actually clicks into the back here, while his is actually on this little tab mechanism that sticks him out in the middle. So there is a huge difference between him and Hotspot, at least in vehicle mode. Robot mode, it's a lot easier to tell that they were reused, but here, it's actually a very different little tank truck, and it's an interesting way of doing the vehicle. It's alright. I don't think it's as good as the G1 version, you know, the old tanker. You know, he can't haul anything on the back there unless you put like a very small Legends back there or something. He's definitely a very different kind of vehicle. This is more of this is less trailer carrier and more armored truck with a few tank pieces attached to it. And if you do full up little fins over here, you can actually kind of get the turret moving. But you do have like a lot of kibble, especially from where Borticus's head is hiding, kind of sticking out. But you could move it around like it's a little turret, and it's a pretty dangerous looking turret. You know, double barrel, quadruple barrel guns, if you kind of see small ones. As far as the front goes, I'm guessing these are supposed to be like the where the drivers would sit. Like one would sit here, one would sit here. And there is a split right here. Hotspot had the same problem too, but that's also where he put his crane at, so it hit it really well. Here it's just sitting there. It's not only out in the open, it's also at the very front where it's extremely noticeable, so not the best. Also, he has the fist sticking out right underneath. Once again, Hotspot did too, but once again, it was at the back of the vehicle. When you have it front and center here, it doesn't look as good. But, you know, I do like the armor detailing here. I like the little bolt detail on top there. I do like how they managed to hide all the armor and the head. I mean, yeah, the head's still sticking out the top there, and, you know, this is pretty obviously the armor bits for Bruticus, but most of it's actually folded up pretty nicely into a nice compact little cannon looking detail. I mean, there's actually some bits here, like you can actually rotate those up, and as I mentioned before, you can rotate this part. So it's a pretty workable cannon. At least it's a functional one, even if it's just obviously used to hide combiner kibble. The back actually looks pretty good. This parts are just his feet folded up, you know, with hollow showing on the inside. There is some little armoring detail right here. I'm not sure why he would have the purple lights. You know, for Hotspot, he had the red lights here, which made sense because he was a fire truck, a crane truck, you know, emergency vehicle. I'm not sure why Onslaught would need lights, especially in the back here when you really couldn't see them with the cannon in the way. You know, obviously it's probably just leftover from Hotspot, but I'm not sure why they left them there, other than just to give him shin guards when he's in robot mode. And, you know, Decepticon sigil there, and one on the other side as well, so I like it though. It's alright. I like the blue color. I like how they hide up all this. It's not perfect. It's definitely not perfect. It's probably the weakest vehicle mode out of the 5, but I like how they reused Hotspot and flipped them around to make a new vehicle. I like how they handled all the combiner stuff becoming a giant cannon and how it actually does still function as a cannon. Not the best, but I can see the effort. I think it's a good amount of effort. They tried their best. They could have done a little bit more, but I think they gave it a good old college try. So we're going to get him into his robot mode. Just fold these part out for his feet, and back here you're going to have the heels actually fold out, and like Hotspot actually does have heels. So you can get them all standing up. Come right here, you want to split this, because then you're going to rotate them around. They of course come out in this double hinge like so. And you're going to want to kind of tuck your finger in here, because what you want to do is fold this blue part up inside like this. And the reason you want to do that is right there are some tabs, and they actually tab into his knee. Like so. So once again, bring down this double hinge. Fold up the hinge. You have to kind of get your finger in there to get it folded up properly. You can go ahead and do it with just the outside too, but it's easier if you kind of stick your finger in there and push the hinge in, because once again, the front of that hinge has the actual pegs. You have to kind of get as straight as possible in there and then just tap it in. That's probably the trickiest part of his transformation, but there we go. Kind of got your legs straightened out. Go ahead and take these fins along the side here. Now we're going to bring up the camera so you can actually see what we're doing now. Go ahead and split the arms. Rotate them forward. Bring them on down just like a hotspot. These little parts just fold up over that. Straighten the backpack a little bit. Finally come in here, fold out the head, close the chest back up, and there we have Onslaught in his robot mode. Alright, now we got Onslaught in his robot mode. We can take a closer look at him. Go ahead and get comparisons with his remold out of the, or who he was remolded from. Here he is next to Hotspot, and you can definitely see in robot mode, yeah, the general shape is definitely reused here, you know. Right down to the sirens on the knees, but there is a lot that has been changed and remolded. As far as I can see, the only thing that was completely kept over is basically everything above the feet right here, all the way up to the chest right there is reused. It's all exactly the same, just different colors. Same with the arms, all the way up to the shoulders, so pretty much all the lower extremities were reused as far as detailing. But the shoulders definitely have different detail on them, being a little more solid, kind of military look to it rather than these bright striped colors. The chest is definitely different, having a lot more circuitry detail and having the Decepticon, a nice big spot for Decepticon sigil. And of course the feet are different. You don't have the front of the vehicle like that. There you have these little feet that actually look like little feet. So I think they actually did a pretty good job trying to get, even how where the guns sit are different. Like on Hotspot they sit a lot lower over there, while on Onslaught they stick up pretty far, as would be expected of Onslaught. So I think they actually did a pretty good job just trying to remold as much as they could while also keeping the general mold. So yeah, he does still have the little spring details, kind of help separate his arm out from the armored pieces. He does still have the little bits of detail on the legs, a little crotch piece looking detail. But he looks pretty good. His head actually is very Onslaught-y, you know, he's got the little cap like the G1 version. He has the red visor, the black mask. Very, you know, super soldier kind of look to it. It is a very tall head. I don't realize how tall his head actually looks. It's not circular, it's a very oval shaped head, or I guess rectangular head in this case. And then of course on the back he has all the combiner stuff still folded up, but once again still kind of looks like a turret. You can rotate it around if you want, but then you have that bit sticking up, so I just leave it like that. Gives his gun sticking up. Carries the Onslaught, the OG Onslaught outline. Let's go ahead and get comparisons in robot mode out of the way. So we're going to bring everybody back in now. Get everybody straightened back up. So here's Blast Off to kind of get the group shot started. Let's see, here's Brawl next up. His head done, fell back in. Kind of have to get them all straightened back out. There's Brawl there if he wants to stand. Let's grab Swindle. He'll go right there. And finally we'll grab Vortex, of course. And I'll adjust the camera so we can kind of see everybody in the group shot. And Brawl, please don't fall over. Why are you giving me problems now after your review? Is it because you're not in the spotlight anymore? But there they all 5 Combaticons all together. They look good together as a group. You know, they're all different colors. They all stand out pretty well. But they also all have a unified look together. You know, they all share some purple except for Brawl, but most of them also share some kind of green or brown. There's a certain look that says they're a team together, but not completely unified team. So it's a pretty neat little look. Let me get everybody back out of here. Y'all will be seen again in the next review when we get the Bruticus. But for now, it's Onslaught's turn. So, articulation, his head can swivel. It's a pretty tight one. Ratcheted shoulders. Can go forward and back. Can go outward there. Could also go outward here. So he's got 2 different joints there. Does have an elbow joint, and then he has 2 elbows. He has one here, and one here is a swivel between them. So he actually has a lot of articulation arm, as he has an elbow there, then a swivel, then another elbow, so he can actually make it look like he broke his arm or something. But it also allows for a double elbow joint, of course, so he can fold his arm completely pointing up. Nothing at the waist, unfortunately, just because of how it transforms. This does move on the hinge, of course, so you can have the kind of guns aiming upward more if you want. You get ratcheted hips, going forward and back. Different ratchet going outward, very heavy ratchet. A mushroom peg swivel there. You get a really good knee. About, I want to say it's more than 97, what, 120 degrees? So yeah, about 120 degree knee there. And you do get foot articulation technically, but you know what you're gonna use that for. And his knee came undone. His leg doesn't stay together as good as my hotspot does. But you know, you could get a little neat little tiptoe there if you want, but it's really hard to do, so I don't really count it. Of course, you can unpeg the guns from the back here and put them in his hands. If they want, oh, tight fit there. So you can give him his guns. That's his weaponry. And yeah, he looks pretty good. My only complaint is that it's hard to use his outward leg articulation as he doesn't have any kind of ankle tilts. So you're kind of just relying on him staying on the corners of his feet. He really was kind of meant just to stand there all stoic, just pew 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 pew, bing bing, you know, just stuff like that. Stand there, shoot, command the others, form Bruticus when needed. So yeah, Onslaught's a pretty good figure. He's definitely a reuse of a hotspot, but I think they did reuse it very well, and they did make it still stand out very well on his own. There's only one last thing to do, and that's to get him into his torso mode for Bruticus. So we're going to just set the guns to the side completely. Start with the feet. You're just going to fold everything up, including the heels along the back. For the arms, you're going to just bring them up and peg them in, much like you did with Hotspot for Defensor, like that. Go ahead and just flip the legs around like this. Bring them back in on that double hinge and have them collapse back in and tab into place. There we go. Tab in. Go ahead and take this entire piece and swivel it around. That's why I was able to swivel. It's not just for the cannon, but also so that I can form Bruticus. These parts are going to open back up, flip them out, and fold them down like that, so where you can use the arm joints, the arm connectors. Fold the fins forward a little bit as they will allow you to rotate the arms up. Click them back in. Fold this little piece down. It is tabbed into this square piece right here. Fold it down like that. And finally, you're going to take this whole, oh, you got to fold Onslaught's head back away. Finally, this whole piece comes down. It's got two tabs right there that tab into your side there. Click it in, then you take this little square piece that reveals Bruticus' head. Bring it back, and just fold it back like that. And that right there is also what you push the guns back into, which is where they were pegged in the first place for the cannon and for the truck mode. Just like that, and that gives Bruticus his little guns along the back. And there you have the Bruticus torso. And we'll talk about him more when we get to the next review.